Good morning. We're happy to have Sister Cranney here with us for our next episode of In Good Faith from the Stewart Branch. And thank you for being with us this morning.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Sister Cranney, I know we had talked a little bit about how this format will go. Will you just tell us, first and foremost, your full name and where you're born and raised, where you're from, your parents' names, if you can remember your grandparents' names, because I think the genealogy is important too. That stuff gets forgotten really easily, and so any of your forefathers, foreparents that you can remember, we'd love to have as well, and where they're from, a bit about them. So let's just start off with your basic information.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Bentley McKell Cranney, and I'm from Oakley, Idaho, which is a super small farm town in southern Idaho. So I grew up on the family farm. My dad's name is Tyler, and my mom's name is Renee. My dad also grew up in Oakley, obviously on the farm, and my mom, Renee, grew up in Maryland, about 20 miles outside of Washington, D.C., and then they met at Utah State and went from there, I guess. They both served missions as well. My dad served in Austin, Texas, and my mom served in Spokane, Washington. And then I have 3 siblings. I have an older brother. His name's Austin. He's 21, and he served in Nashville, Tennessee. And then I have a younger brother that is 15. He's a freshman. And a younger sister that is in 7th grade.
What are their names?
My younger brother's name is Camden, and my younger sister's name is Berlin.
Excellent. And so you said your parents met at Utah State?
Yeah. Yes.
Did your mom, coming from Maryland, I can see her father, because Utah State is known to be an agricultural school.
Yeah.
It's the Aggies after all, right? But your mom, was she just looking for a Utah school, or was there something that was about agriculture? Was there something about Utah State that you know that attracted her to that?
Not really, other than she didn't grow up around a lot of members, and she knew she wanted to live around more members of the church. And so she figured Utah was the best place, but she didn't want to go to BYU. And so Utah State was kind of the next best option, and she had heard really good things about it. And so, yeah, she went there and ended up being roommates with my dad's cousin. And so they met through that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Excellent. What about your grandparents?
Yeah, my dad's parents, their names are Carla and Doug. Doug, my grandpa, is from Oakley, born and raised there. And my grandma Carla was born in Payson, Utah, but then grew up in Tremont, which is kind of close to Logan, another really small town. And they also met at Utah State and got married. My grandma passed away this last June, so almost a year ago, but my grandpa's still alive, and my family currently lives with him because we take care of him. He's got some health issues, and so we're taking care of him for the time being.
Awesome. By the way, my parents met at Utah State.
Oh, really? Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, small world.
Yeah. And then my mom's parents, her mom's name is Emmeline, and her parents actually got divorced a long time ago, so I've never met, my actual grandpa, but they got remarried, and so what I consider to be my grandpa, I guess, his name's Brad, Emmeline and Brad Osler, and they live in a super small town called Trigo, Montana. It's up by, Eureka, kind of by Kalispell, super close to the Canadian border. And so they met, I'm actually not sure how they met, but they live up there.
Okay, so hold on. So your mom is from Maryland, and your grandmother, who must have lived in Maryland at some point, she met and married a guy back west as well, and lives not far from where you grew up?
So yeah, actually my mom lived in Idaho for the first 2 months of her life, maybe, when she was a newborn. She was born in Twin Falls, which is 40 minutes from my hometown, and then they moved to Maryland. I'm honestly not really sure why, but my mom's dad's parents and family was back in the east. And so they lived there, and then my mom ended up moving to Utah, obviously got married, and around that same time my grandma got remarried to my grandpa Brad, and they moved to Montana because he grew up in Montana.
Gotcha. These are, obviously to someone inside the United States, they realize how far of a distance that is.
Yeah.
Someone outside the United States, they'd be like, well, why is that a big deal? You're all in the same country. But here in the United States, we're talking, 2,000 miles between those or whatever. It's quite a long ways. So that's interesting. Well, so tell me what it was like growing up on a small farm in Idaho.
Yeah.
And what type of farm was it?
So we have, I guess, mainly potatoes, pretty stereotypical for Idaho, but potatoes, corn, sugar beets, any type of grain, mustard, and then there's also like a cattle portion of the farm, but that's kind of like my dad's cousin kind of runs the cattle, so I never really dealt with it a lot. But I love growing up on the farm, like the best experience, the best way to grow up in my opinion. You learn how to work hard, I guess, and I always say that my dad taught me how to do things right the first time, and so that's kind of something that I guess I focused on growing up. We work a lot during the summers with my siblings and everything, but yeah, I love growing up on the farm. It's a really cool experience, and the farm is it's generational, and so it's really cool to see it like pass down and keep going. And so like my older brother will probably go back and kind of take over the farm. So that's really cool to see the process of that too.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's fantastic. Well, tell me about growing up there as a kid and tell me about what the church was like and what it meant for your family.
Yeah. So I actually was born in Logan, Utah. I lived in Tremont until I was 2. Then we moved back to Burley, which is 20 miles north of Oakley. And we were just living in a little house there while my parents were building our house in Oakley. And then we moved out, and so, but like, as far as I can remember, I lived in Oakley, basically. And I love it. It's super close-knit community. It's about 600 people. I went to a super small high school. My graduating class was about 40, so super small. And the majority of the people in Oakley are members of the church, and so I grew up in a very faithful community, church-based, church-focused, which is awesome. I really loved it. Tend to be a little more sheltered that way because you're not exposed to as much of the world, but I think for me, I consider that to be a blessing. And so I really loved growing up in Oakley. I'd like to one day raise my kids there. It's a good place to raise a family. Everyone's very kind, welcoming. Everyone's very close, like I said. And even the people that aren't members of the church are very aware of the church. And like they'll come, my friends that aren't members, like they all came to my farewell. And that's just kind of how it is. Everyone's welcome in the church. They know they are. And yeah, everyone's very close.
That's wonderful. Tell me about some of your experiences, that your maybe family traditions that you had growing up that were meaningful to you. Maybe that Christmas or birthdays or something, or reunions, or some type of family tradition that you guys had, or just even some of the workspace. I mean, maybe it's not based on a holiday or a birthday. Is there any traditions that you had as a family that you remember that you appreciated?
Yeah, not anything super big, but for Christmas Eve especially, we did a lot of activities at my grandma's house. My grandma lives like 2 miles down the road, and so we would always go there, and we had like a lot of different games that we would play. And then we always get like our Christmas pajamas, like Christmas Eve night, and then we like wear them to sleep and everything. So Christmas pajamas was always one of my favorites. And general conference weekends, my mom always made what are they called? German pancakes in the morning. And so that was also fun because we weren't like a big breakfast family. We didn't normally have like fancy breakfast, and so general conference was always good because we got something a little bit fancier. Yeah, those are 2 that are fond to me, I guess.
Sure. So tell me, what was the most surprising thing? You've been on your mission now for a few months. You're in your first quarter of your mission, right?
Yeah,
still
3 months today, actually.
3 months today. So what was the most surprising thing to you about being in North Carolina and Virginia now?
Oh, that's a good question. The terrain is very different from Idaho. I mean, like where I'm at in Idaho, it's kind of desert. And so everything's like dirt. There's not trees. It's dry. And the roads are like very like on a grid. And so being here is crazy because there's trees everywhere. Like you can't see at all. Like in Idaho you can see for miles on end, and here you can't see anything. And the roads are so windy and crazy. So I feel like that was a big shock to me, just the terrain in general. Everyone's very, very nice here. At least in this area, I found that everyone's very kind, very welcoming. Not that they aren't in the West, but, people just act differently. Yeah, I'd say those are the biggest things.
Sure, sure. And so what are some of, tell me a little bit about some of your interests and hobbies and things that you had growing up. What are some things that are about you that are a little bit different, maybe from your siblings or some of the kids that you grew up with?
So I love sports. I love all types of sports. Growing up, I did a lot of different things. I danced I did like studio dance for a long time, but I stopped that because you can't do that and like play high school sports. And so I did like cross country, track, basketball, and I was on the cheer team. Something that I really loved in high school was that my mom was the high school cheer coach. And so we kind of got to do that together. That made us have a really good and close relationship because we spent so much time together. That was really cool because growing up, my mom always coached like competition cheer and high school cheer and everything. And so I always grew up like going with her to that kind of thing. And then I was able to actually like do it side by side with her. So that was really awesome. I also participated in FFA, which is Future Farmers of America, if you don't know what that is. And I raised like potatoes for part of it. And then I also raised lambs. And so you like buy them, raise them, and then you show them at like the county fair and sell them. And so I did that, which a lot of kids in that area do some sort of FFA. Most people show like steers, but I did lambs, which was kind of different for my siblings because none of them had ever done anything like that, and I kind of decided I wanted to. But now my younger siblings show pigs, and so we kind of got into that. I also did youth government, which I really liked. My siblings didn't do that either, but that was super cool. Got to kind of see into like the governmental systems a little more. We would go to like the Capitol in Boise and do like little like mock like debates and all of that and go through the whole process. That was really cool just to be able to see it and like learn how it all works. And then I also did, what is it called? Like student council. I was on like the student body presidency. That was fun as well to be able to kind of get out of my shell. Because naturally I'm a little more shy, but through high school as I was able to participate in those different activities, I was able to kind of break out of that and learn to be like more of a leader, I guess. And so those are kind of some of the things that I did growing up that I feel like helped me to be who I am today.
I like it. What's one thing that most people don't know about you?
Ooh, that's a good question. Oh no, this is always a hard question for me. I think most people assume that because working on the farm isn't something that seems appealing, I think, to most people, especially for women. I think lots of women aren't interested in agricultural stuff, but I really love working on the farm. It's something I love to do, and I think that's something that catches most people by surprise. Not that it's always easy or always fun, but I've really grown to love it.
That's awesome. And what's maybe one or two things that bring you close to your Father in heaven that you've seen has been most significant in your life to do that?
Prayer, number one. I have a very, very strong testimony of prayer. I've seen it work in my life time and time again. And when I was deciding to come on a mission, I guess I wasn't even really deciding because I hadn't even thought about it. I didn't want to go, is what I thought. And I was praying for answers to other questions, what school am I going to go to? I had a few different things that I was considering doing over the next year. And so I was just praying for answers, to kind of work through these things to figure out what I was going to be doing with my life after graduation, because I just graduated high school a year ago. And So I was praying about these other things. I wanted answers to these other questions. I was not praying about going on a mission because that was not something that I was really considering. And it turns out that the answer to those other questions, those other prayers, were to go on a mission. And so that was a testament to me that our Heavenly Father always answers our prayers, whether it's in the way that we want or expect or not. He always answers them. And his plan is always better than anything that we have planned. And then another thing for staying close to my Father in heaven, I'd say being around the right people. I've noticed that my Heavenly Father really shows his love for me through other people, through blessing me with people that also love him and that show me good examples and show me how I can be more Christ-like. And so I've been blessed with so many good people in my life surrounding me, and that's something that has kept me close to my Father in heaven.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for our time. That's all of our time today, and we're really appreciative of Sister Cranney that can be with us. And we wish you all the best on you continue on with your mission.
Thank you.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.